Good morning, Ms. McCabe.
Good morning.
When was the last time you spoke with Carrie Roberts before your testimony today?
She called me last night.
What did y'all discuss?
She asked if my daughters were going to be staying home from school today because her daughter would possibly join them.
Did you discuss anything having to do with your testimony?
Not my testimony, no.
Did you discuss anything in that conversation with her prior testimony?
No.
Are you aware that she testified last week?
Yes.
Did you discuss anything after that, after she testified with her about her testimony?
No.
We know that through her testimony that you had a conversation with her the morning that she testified.
Yes.
Right? Did you discuss what you anticipated to be her testimony in that conversation before she testified?
No.
Have you and Ms. Roberts ever discussed anything about either one of your testimonies, either in the last proceeding or in anticipation of this proceeding?
No.
So for the entirety of the last year, even though you both went through a proceeding last year where you both testified under oath and it was highly, highly publicized, neither one of you, your good friend Carrie Roberts and you, have ever discussed either of your testimonies between that time and this time?
No, we've discussed the case and we've discussed what happened that moment, the moments of the morning, but we have not discussed testimony.
Okay, so let's break that down for a second. I'm talking about, because the timing matters, I'm just asking at this point, if you'll bear with me, just the year from last year at a different proceeding to this year, you have discussed this case.
Yes.
With Ms. Roberts.
Many times, yes.
And you've discussed the specifics of her memory, which would be reflected in her testimony, correct?
We talked about what happened that morning.
So you were talking about what she remembers happening that morning, correct?
No, what happened that morning.
Okay, so not to put too fine a point on it, Ms. McCabe, but if you ask me what I had for dinner last night, it's my memory of what I had for dinner last night. Would you agree with that?
Sustained.
Did you talk about her perception of what happened that morning during the last year?
We've talked about what has happened, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to break it down between you and Ms. Roberts. You've discussed her perceptions and her memory of what happened, as well as, and separate and apart from, your memory and your perceptions, correct?
Correct.
So there have been circumstances in which you and Ms. Roberts have compared, by definition, what she remembers versus what you remember, correct?
I wouldn't say compare.
Now let's move to what would you say in terms of what you've discussed and why?
I would say that we've both talked about what we've discussed, but it wasn't like a comparison. We weren't comparing anything.
You've talked about what you discussed. What does that mean? Talked about your testimony?
No, we've discussed what happened that moment,
right,
and in those moments. So, when I got a phone call, and that's my story. I got a phone call in the morning, and then Carrie can say, yeah, I got a phone call as well.
As you said, that's your story, correct?
Not my story. It's
Those
the
were your
truth.
words.
It's the truth.
Okay. So, for instance, when you got a phone call at 4:53 in the morning, Carrie Roberts wasn't there, correct?
Correct.
But you've discussed that with her.
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception of that, your memory of that phone call was, even though she was not recipient to and did not witness that phone call, correct?
I've told her about the phone call, correct.
As well as many other details that she was not privy to personally, correct?
Correct.
Conversations that you've had, for instance, conversations that you claim you've had with Ms. Reed, correct?
Correct.
And you've told her what your perception is of those conversations, or your memory was or is of those conversations with Ms. Reed, correct?
Which conversations with Ms. Reed?
Any conversations. Just anything that she wasn't privy to. You've discussed that with her.
Some things, yes,
okay,
absolutely.
And conversely, Ms. McCabe, obviously, she's also discussed certain perceptions and memories that she has about this case, and the facts of this case, as she recalls them, that you were not necessarily privy to, correct?
Yes.
Things that may have taken place outside your presence, correct?
Correct.
And you've talked about things, she's talked to you about things, now I'm getting myself confused. y'all have talked about things that were outside of her perception and outside of your perception. And you've shared those with each other.
We've shared our experiences. We've become very close. We both lived through a traumatic experience.
How many times would you say you and Ms. Roberts have discussed your individual perceptions of what you remember happening on the 28th or the 29th of January 2022? How many times?
It would be hard to put a number on that. We talk about, it's hard. We're bonded. We talk about the trauma that we relive every day. Karen called us for help and we both answered the phone.
And that bonding is the glue that holds you two together. Is this case, correct?
Yes.
So that probably, by definition, is the foundation of many, many, many of your conversations. Would you agree?
We've grown into friends where we talk about many other things
Sure.
besides the case.
Sure, the movie you saw last weekend and what the kids are doing next week.
Yes, and yes, absolutely. We
Okay,
talk
so-
many different things, just like girlfriends do.
I'm just concerned with and asking you about the subject matter of this case and the details and the facts of this case. You two have probably talked hundreds of times, that's fair to say, about your individual perceptions, your respective perceptions of this case, correct?
This happened 3 years ago, and we've talked about it time and time again. This case has traumatized us, so
And
it's a
talking
huge part
about-
of our lives.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe it just, I meant traumatized our lives.
Okay. It would be impossible for you two to have had so many conversations about your respective perceptions of the details of that day without that influencing the other person, correct? You've somehow been influenced by Miss Roberts' perceptions and her memories, correct?
I don't think I would say influenced.
Would you say that she's been influenced by your perceptions and your memories?
Objection.
Would you say that, Ms. McCabe?
No, I wouldn't.
Next question.
How many times have you met with anybody from the DA's office? And I'm just going to limit the time frame right now in anticipation of your appearance in this trial, yesterday and today.
I'd say roughly 4 or 5.
Can you give me a time frame when those 4 or 5 meetings were?
I don't have dates. I do remember at one point I met with Mr. Brennan. He was new to the case, so I went in and he introduced himself.
How long ago was that?
I
Weeks or months?
I can't give you a time frame. I'm sorry.
Do you think it was last summer?
No,
Do you think it was?
no, it was more recent.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
sorry.
wasn't in the fall of last year?
No,
It was in 2025 sometime?
I believe so.
You
Yes.
think it might have been February, January?
Again, I can't give you an exact. I'm sorry.
All right. I want to talk about the time frames of those conversations, then I'll ask you a little bit more about those conversations. So that was the first meeting that you had was with Mr. Brennan in anticipation of your testimony. What were the subsequent 4 meetings or so that you've had? With whom and approximately what time?
Okay, so another meeting with Mr. Brennan. Are you looking for who was
Sure.
there?
Who else
All
was there?
I mean, can I give you a general answer? I didn't write down like every meeting who was there, but
Of course.
generally, okay.
Was Mr. Lowley there?
During 1 or 2 of the meetings, he was, yes.
Was Ms. McLaughlin there?
Yes.
Was there anybody else from the DA's office there?
The officer or trooper Tully was there at one. Trooper Buchanan was there at one. The witness advocates were there. And again, give or take the particular meeting.
Those are 2 meetings that you've talked about with Mr. Brennan and others. What about the 3rd meeting?
No, I'm sorry. I was lumping a few of them together.
Sure, understood.
I apologize.
How many meetings would you have? Let's just start there. How many meetings have you had with Mr. Brennan and either staff or colleagues?
So after the first initial meeting, I
Right.
would say, again, I didn't write them down. Off the top of my head, I can think of 2 or 3 more after that
Okay.
excuse me, first initial one.
So that's either 4 or 5 meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues, Mr. Lally, Ms. McLaughlin perhaps, Mr. Nelson perhaps,
Yes.
the other employee of the DA's office, and Troopers Buchanan and Trooper Tully.
Correct.
You asked questions about at any of these meetings. I'm just going to lump them all together. Any of
Okay.
these 5 meetings. By the way, when was the most recent?
Last night, I had a Zoom call in regards, I think the court asked them to,
Yes, I'm going
Yeah,
to stop you right there.
oh, okay.
I'm going to ask a different question, and if you don't
Okay.
mind, I'm just going to lead you through this question.
Okay.
You had a conversation last night. I'm not interested in that particular conversation. That
Okay.
was for a very specific purpose. I'm asking you about everything leading up to, but not including last night's conversation, okay?
Okay.
So let's just leave that one out. You've had, I think you mentioned, either 4 or 5 other meetings with Mr. Brennan and some combination of his colleagues and or law enforcement.
Yeah, and I might have, in the 5, included that one from last night.
Okay, fair enough. Were you asked questions in those, we're just going to call them 4 meetings. Were you asked questions during those 4 meetings about your testimony at the first proceeding last year?
I reviewed I did review some of my testimony, yes.
In what format?
I watched.
Paper transcript or
No, we just watched a little bit of it.
do you watch your direct examination?
A little bit, yes.
Did you watch your cross-examination?
A little, yes.
Who cross-examined you?
You did,
That was me.
yes.
And did you watch the redirect or any part of it?
No.
Did you watch any part of any subsequent version of recross or additional questions that you were asked?
I don't believe so, no.
Was there a specific area that Mr. Brennan asked you to look at and review in terms of your direct or your cross-examination?
No.
Did you watch the entirety of the direct examination and the entirety of the cross-examination?
I do not believe so, no.
Were you questioned by Mr. Brennan following your review of that direct and cross-examination?
No.
So he didn't ask you any questions about any of your answers?
I don't, he showed me a dash cam and would ask me to point out who's this, who's that, a waterfall video, is this you, is this somebody? Those were the type of questions that he asked me.
What about any discussion about your demeanor and how you performed in the last proceeding? Objection.
Sustained.
I'll ask it a different way. What about your demeanor? I'm using probably a poor word, perform. How you came across, your demeanor in the last proceeding? Objection.
Sustained.
Did you discuss changing your demeanor in any way, shape, form, or fashion from the last trial the last proceeding to this trial, my mistake. From the last proceeding to this trial, was your demeanor ever discussed?
No, I was just told to slow down, answer the question, and, answer it to the best of my memory.
Was there any discussion about talking about your background, for instance, your family and your children and being a sports mom, as you talked about in your direct examination?
No, I believe I did that in the previous one as well.
Was there any discussion about crafting your testimony in any way to suggest a softer approach?
No.
Was there any discussion about how to develop your testimony from beginning to end? I object.
Sustained.
Did Mr. Brennan ask you about, or let me ask it a different way, did Mr. Brennan take you through a series of questions, for instance, as almost a test run of questions that you might be asked either on direct examination or cross-examination?
No.
Did you practice your testimony with any member of the DA's office?
No.
Were there any sessions where you sat and was subjected to a cross-examination, like a fake cross-examination or a fake direct examination?
No, there
Anything
wasn't.
like that?
No.
What were the things that stand out in your mind? You said you had at least 4 meetings. How long was each meeting, by the way, ish?
The first meeting, I think, was fairly quick. It was just the introduction.
30 minutes, less than 30 minutes?
I don't want to give a time because I'm not sure,
Okay.
but it was fairly quick, yes.
Okay. What about the second meeting?
Again, I don't know specific meetings, but I can tell you that there was a longer one where I did watch some dash cam video, look at different pictures, things like that.
What kind of pictures did you look at? Other than the dash cam video?
The pictures of John's house.
Okay. The same photos that we saw today?
Yes.
How long in total would you say all of those meetings were? Just taking them all together.
I really can't give you an estimate. I think the first one was fairly quick. The second one, one of them was a little bit longer, maybe a couple hours.
Okay. Then the third one, was that also a couple hours, or was that one fairly quick?
That was fairly quick, yes.
So fair to say between 2, 3, 4 hours total meeting times?
Again, I'd have to probably go back and look at the date and the time. I really can't give you a specific amount of time. I apologize.
Did Trooper Tully or Trooper Buchanan ask you any questions during the course of any of these meetings?
Regarding the case, no, but we did briefly talk about how my kids were, how their kids were.
But they didn't ask you any questions about your testimony, about about the case, about your memories, about specific facts?
I do not believe so, no.
During any of these meetings, was anybody taking notes? Ms. McLaughlin, Mr. Lally, Mr. Brennan, any of the troopers?
No, I don't believe so.
So there was several hours worth of meetings with you, and nobody scribed any notes that you saw?
None that I saw, no.
And these meetings were not recorded?
I do not believe so, no.
Ms. McCabe, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about your family because I just want to make sure it's crystal clear who's who. You're married to Matt McCabe, correct?
Yes.
Your sister is Nicole Albert.
Yes.
Nicole is married to Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was Brian Albert's home that you were at, 34 Fairview, that you arrived at where John's body was found, correct?
Yes.
The same home where that late night gathering was on January 28th going into the morning of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself to be close with your sister Nicole and Brian?
Yes, very close.
Your families, it's not just you and Nicole, your whole families are close, correct?
Yes, we have a very close family.
How long have you known Brian Albert?
Since I was in kindergarten.
You consider him, even though he is not blood related to you, you consider him family?
Yes.
In addition to Brian and Nicole Albert, you're also very close with Chris and Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
Just to be clear, and I'm going to do this slowly,
Okay.
Brian Albert's younger brother is Chris Albert, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is married to Julie Albert.
Yes.
You consider Chris and Julie family, even though there may not be a blood relation as well, correct?
Yes.
Chris Albert is a Canton Select Board member, is that right?
Now he is, yes.
And the Canton, that's in Canton? I said Select Board member. Did I mention Canton Select Board member?
It is in Canton,
okay.
yes.
All right, obviously it's in Canton. The Canton Police Department reports to the Select Board, correct?
I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that echelon?
No.
Okay. You're aware that Brian Albert, your friend of, I'm not going to say how many years, but since kindergarten, was a Boston police officer.
Yes.
He had been a lifetime law enforcement officer for some 30 years before he retired recently, correct?
Yes.
He's a trained first responder, obviously.
Yes.
Brian Albert and Chris Albert have another brother named Kevin Albert, correct?
Yes.
Kevin Albert is a detective with a police department, correct?
Yes, I believe that's his title. I'm not 100%.
Which police department is Kevin Albert associated with?
Canton.
And you've grown up in Canton your whole life, you indicated.
Yes.
Your entire family has grown up in Canton, correct?
Yes.
And you, Ms. McCabe, have 3 sisters Nicole, we've talked about. You also have a sister named Shelley, is that right?
Michelle, yes.
Michelle? Mm-hmm. And Denise, who you mentioned in your direct examination.
Yes.
Nicole is also known by nickname, is that right?
Yes.
What is Nicole's nickname within the family?
Coco.
Does Shelley also have a nickname? Well, I guess Shelley is the
Yeah,
shortened
Shelley
name from
is.
Michelle, correct?
Yes.
What about Denise?
She's Dee Dee.
Dee Dee?
Yeah, like Deeedee.
Your father lives close by in a neighboring town, correct?
Yes.
Don't tell me the town, but it's relatively close to Canton.
20 minutes, yes.
Okay. His name is Tom Weeks.
Yes.
There are, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the family tree is getting large, but there are children, cousins, second cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. There's a combination of familial relations within that set of folks that I just talked about, Chris and Brian and Nicole and you and Matt and the folks that we've just talked about.
Yes.
That family, that large family, celebrates holidays together, I'm guessing?
We don't typically, celebrate with Kevin and Chris, but my family does, yes.
Along with Brian, Albert, and Nicole?
Yes, of course.
Birthdays are celebrated within that family?
Yes.
Go on vacations together, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Gatherings like the one on the 28th?
Yes.
Special events?
Yes.
Spend weekends together?
Yes.
You mentioned a lot of sporting events. There's a lot of sporting events that y'all go to together.
Yes.
So it is very, very easy to see that it's an extremely close-knit family.
Yes.
And naturally, you're very protective of your family, as anybody would be.
Yes, I love my family.
You also said that you knew, and your words, liked Karen Reed, my client, on the 28th of January 2022, correct?
Yes.
But she very much is not family, correct?
Correct.
She certainly was not as important to you as your actual family, the Alberts, the McCabe's, the folks associated with them. Is that right?
Yes.
On January 28th, 2022, members of the Albert family and the McCabe family all went to a bar together, had drinks together that night. Waterfall, we've heard a little bit about that, correct?
Correct.
Ultimately, you went back to your sister's house for the after party that we've heard so much about. That was at Brian Albert's house, is that right?
Yes.
You've been interviewed, I think you indicated multiple times, you didn't even give a number of how many times you've been interviewed by police in this case, is that right?
Yes.
Your family is connected to people at Boston Police Department. We've just talked about that. Brian Albert, is that right?
Well, was a Boston police officer.
Right. So when I say connected, there is some familial or family or friendly connection to that police agency, Boston Police Department. It'd be Brian Albert in this case, correct?
The objection sustained.
There's also a connection to the Massachusetts State Police through your family, is that right?
Objection.
So define connection.
Julie and Chris Albert are very, very close to you, correct?
I'm close with Julie and Chris, yes.
You're aware that Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney, is basically best friends with Julie.
No, I'm not aware of that. She's best friends with Julie's sister, Jillian.
Okay, so Courtney is best friends with Jillian, who's sisters to Julie,
Yes.
who's married to Chris, who's an Albert, who's the little brother of Brian Albert.
Yes.
Okay? And Canton Police Department, there's also some connections there as well, Kevin Albert being the most obvious of them.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Do you have a connection with the Canton Police Department?
Not with the department, but with Kevin Albert.
Right, who's a member of the department.
Yes, but my relationship's with him.
Understood. You've indicated that you've been interviewed by law enforcement agents associated with with Canton Police Department. That'd be Officer Lank.
Yes.
Can I
and
stop
also
you for a
good.
second and see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sure. There have been occurrences in which Jennifer McCabe has asked you to contact the DA's office on her behalf to ask a question here or there, get some information, correct?
To Steve Nelson, yes.
Okay. How many times, just a number of times, the volume, would you say that Ms. McCabe has asked you to reach out to the DA's office in one particular or another on her behalf?
I don't think very many.
What does that mean? Of the 50 times that you've had
No,
communications?
maybe like 4, not many, to my knowledge.
When you would, on these 4 occasions or 4 or so occasions, when you would reach out to the DA's office, gather information, whatever that information may be, would you then report that information back to Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
You obviously understand the importance of providing statements to law enforcement that are free of influence of other people, other witnesses. Is that right?
Say it again?
You understand the importance of providing information to law enforcement as a witness to law enforcement free of influence from other people.
Yeah.
In other words, you want to be as accurate and as independent as possible.
Yes.
And that's because if your statement is somehow, or if your communications with law enforcement are somehow influenced by others, it might call into question the credibility of the person providing the statement. Objection.
Can you answer that question, Ms. Roberts?
No.
Okay, next question.
Sure. A statement that's been colored by influence from someone else would lack credibility, right? Objection.
Sustained.
I want to talk about the statements in the prior testimony that you have provided in this case, Ms. Roberts. There's been several of them. The first time you told your story to law enforcement was on January 29th. We've already established that, correct?
Say that again?
It was on January 29th, the first time you relayed your story to law enforcement.
Yes.
And that was to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico. That's the name I couldn't remember.
I don't remember.
But you do remember Trooper Dunn.
I remember 2 troopers. I don't know their name.
Okay. Where did that interview take place?
In my dining room.
And who was with you when you gave that interview, if anybody?
My husband was home. I think my daughter was home at that point. My husband was home. I don't know if the kids were home.
Nobody else from outside the family?
No.
Okay. Who contacted you about doing that interview? How did they know to come to you at your home?
I don't remember. They may have just shown up. I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember what time the interview was?
Maybe around dinner time, maybe around 5, 6.
Was it recorded?
I'm sorry?
Was it recorded in any way? Tape
I don't-
recorder running?
I don't think so.
The troopers were taking notes, obviously?
I believe so.
During your conversation with, and I'm jumping around a bit, so I apologize. During your conversation or conversations with Mr. Brennan and the DA's, members of the DA's office in preparation for your testimony, were any of those interviews recorded?
No.
Was anybody taking notes?
No.
No, none of the DAs were actually taking notes, the ADAs?
I didn't look around the table to see if anyone was taking notes, but I didn't see them taking notes.
No pads and pens on the table?
There was a lot of stuff on the table, but I didn't see anybody taking notes.
Okay. You received a phone call just before that interview started at 5:25 p.m., correct?
Around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Is this the night of the 29th, you mean?
This is the night of, I'm jumping back to the night of the 29th.
Yeah, I'm not following you very well.
That's okay. On the 29th,
Yeah.
when you were interviewed around 5:25 p.m., maybe just a little bit before that,
Yeah.
you received a phone call just before that, correct?
I do not know.
Isn't it true that Jen McCabe called you and spoke to you just before that?
I spoke to Jen McCabe the entire day.
Okay. Including just before that interview.
I don't know.
Did you tell Jen McCabe that you were about to be interviewed?
No.
Did you tell her at some point did you text her and tell her that the officers had arrived?
I don't think so.
Did she text you back and say, call me right after?
I don't know.
Okay. During the course of that interview, when the incident was still pretty fresh in your mind, you indicated that at about 5 a.m. you got a call from Karen Reed indicating that John never came home and that she was worried, correct?
Correct.
You also indicated that she was worried that John may be walking and may have gotten hit by a plow. You relayed that to the officers.
Yes.
You indicated that you met up with Karen Reed and Jennifer McCabe at Jennifer McCabe's house, and Karen was hysterical and worried that something had happened to John.
Yes.
You also indicated that once you were at 34 Fairview, once y'all had made your way over to 34 Fairview, Karen saw John and ran to him, although you and Jennifer didn't see him initially, correct?
That's correct.
You said that Karen was repeating the phrase, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" over and over. Is that right?
That is correct.
You also indicated that she said that if anything happened to John, she'd kill herself, correct?
That's what she said to me.
Object.
So the objection sustained.
Did you indicate at any time, I'm sorry, let me ask it a different way. Did either of the troopers indicate to you after your initial interview that if there was anything further that you could recall that would be useful, please provide it? Please give it to at that time.
I don't know.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to look at that January 29th report?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Show the second page of that report, January 29th. And there, I put a little mark by paragraph 5. You could take a look at that.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
During this interview with Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico, they indicated after you gave your statement that if you wish to provide anything additional, now's the time to do it.
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you informed that you were limited on time in that interview? Meaning, we got to get this done, we're leaving, we're out of time.
No.
They didn't cut you off, correct?
No.
They didn't tell you that they had a limited amount of information that they wanted and then they were just going to leave, correct?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
As a matter of fact, they told you that anything you wanted to provide to them, provide it. Give them as much detail as you could, correct?
I don't recall.
Okay. You just read the last statement that these troopers indicated, correct? If there was anything further she could recall that would be useful, please provide that information.
Object.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Having looked at the
No,
report,
no. Bring it to her and show it to her again.
she's just, it's the same thing that I just showed her. Having looked at the report, does that refresh your recollection about what Trooper Dunn and DeChico told you at the end of the interview?
I don't recall. It's not refreshing. I'm not remembering it. Even reading it, I'm not remembering it.
I see. Okay, fair enough. So as you sit here, the details about what you told or what those two officers told you are not fresh in your mind, and nothing's refreshing your recollection about that.
Right.
Okay, but you do remember the basics of what I just described in that conversation with those two troopers.
I mean, they asked me what happened. I told them, but I was also in shock.
You never said during the course of that interview that my client called you at 5 o'clock in the morning just hours earlier and said he's dead and then hung up, correct?
No, I don't believe I said it at that point. It did not. I did not remember that until a couple of days later.
I see. And in fact, when you were asked about that particular statement, when you were asked about that particular series of events, that never came to your mind.
No.
That literally the first words out of Karen Reed's mouth, according to you now, is he's dead and then hung up.
Correct.
When you heard that, you didn't take that to mean that she killed him.
No.
Of course not. She was panicked, correct?
Yes.
You did add that I'm sorry, one other thing that you didn't add in your initial statement to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico is anything about the taillight either, correct?
Not.
Okay. And you also didn't say anything about any sort of a Google search or the praying that you talked about in the back of the patrol car, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember.
The second time you were interviewed, that was the February 1st interview. That was with Kathleen Prince and Connor Keith, correct? And you just looked at that report, at least part of that report. Is that right?
Say it again?
Connor Keith and Kathleen Prince, that was on February 1st, 3 days after your initial statement, correct?
I don't remember the date, but I remember meeting with them.
Okay. I want to make sure I get the dates down, so I'm sorry to belabor this, but... May I approach?
Yes.
Would it refresh your recollection if you would look at the report of that interview?
It might.
Okay. First paragraph.
Thanks. Am I reading the whole thing or just the part where you dotted?
Just if it refreshes your recollection
Oh.
of the dates.
Oh, for the date, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
What date was it that you met with them?
February 1st.
That second interview was conducted at 12 Country Lane, correct?
Yes.
And who again lives at 12 Country Lane?
Jennifer McCabe.
So the second time you told your memory, your story to law enforcement, you were literally sitting in Jennifer McCabe's house.
Yes.
And you had met with Jennifer McCabe before your interview, correct?
Yes. We were putting a timeline together.
So you two were actually prepping, if that's a valid term, prepping for your interview, putting a timeline together, correct?
We were putting a timeline together at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe.
And Jennifer McCabe, was helping you with the timeline, and you were helping her with the timeline.
Yes, we were putting together the events of what had happened.
So she was helping you, and you were helping her, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So both of you were assisting in each other's memories, correct?
Yes.
I remember this, and you remember this, and okay, now I remember this, correct?
Yep.
Obviously, that would help influence your memory, going
Yes.
over the event with someone else, correct?
Yep.
So what's on that timeline, you would agree, is not completely independent, your memory. It's a combination of your memory and Jennifer McCabe's memory. Isn't that right?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the two of you drew out some sort of a timeline for you to follow during the course of that interview. Is that right?
For me to follow what?
During the course of that February 1st interview, as you were interviewed in Ms. McCabe's house. I mean, that was the purpose of the timeline, to help you with that interview?
No, that wasn't the purpose of the timeline.
You used it for that purpose, though, obviously.
We did not. I was at Jen's house making a timeline, and the two officers showed up to interview her. I just happened to be there.
Right. And when they interviewed you, did you have that timeline in front of you? That's my question.
No, I did not.
Okay. But you had just created it along with Jennifer McCabe.
Some of it.
Okay. And then it was after that that this timeline was coordinated between the two of you, that you actually told your second story to Trooper Prince. And when I say second story, I mean the second time you were interviewed on February 1st as opposed to January 29th. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever become aware of text messages that Jennifer McCabe was sending to others in a group chat talking about you in that interview?
No,
You were never told or became aware that she sent text messages to a group as she listened in on your interview?
no. I don't think she could listen in. She wasn't anywhere near me.
You weren't aware that or are you aware as you sit here that she sent a text message that said she's telling them everything, all the stuff?
Sustained.
Have you ever been provided a text message or told about a text message that perhaps Jennifer McCabe was sending to a group?
No,
Listening to your suggesting that she was listening to your interview?
no.
The third time you told your story was later that night in a telephonic interview. Is that right? With Trooper Proctor?
I requested to speak to Trooper Proctor because I had remembered the very first time I spoke with Karen that morning, and I wanted to make sure it was recorded.
Okay. That wasn't my question. My question was, did you have another telephonic conversation with Trooper Proctor, yes or no?
You said that night, but it wasn't that night.
When was it?
I think it was earlier that day.
Okay. But it was after the interview with Trooper Prince.
I don't think so.
Think it was beforehand?
I think it was beforehand.
You were still with Jennifer McCabe when that call took place, correct?
I was in her house. I was not with her. I stepped away to speak to him by myself.
In her home at 12 Country Lane.
Correct.
Who else was with you other than Jennifer McCabe in the house?
Her sister was there writing down the timeline for
Who's
us.
that?
Her sister, Denise.
Denise? So she was scribing the timeline as you and Jennifer McCabe were creating it?
She was writing it down as we were remembering things.
Right. And the three of you were doing this together, sort of communally.
Yes.
She would say something, then you would say something, then it would spark something that she would say, and back and forth, correct?
Yes.
How is it that Trooper Proctor got a hold of you? Did you call him or did he call you?
I think he was on the phone with Jen, and I asked to speak to him.
So Trooper Proctor got a hold of you through talking to Jen McCabe.
Well, I asked to speak to him, but yes.
Right. Was that interview recorded, to your knowledge?
I don't know.
The fourth time you met with police was February 2nd, the very next day, at about 12:08 p.m. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Do you remember signing a consent form for your phone?
Yes.
Was that the next day after this interview with Trooper Prince and Trooper
I don't know
Keith?
what day it was. It was right after Karen was arraigned for the first time. Jen and I met with them and both handed our phones over willingly.
So you've just answered my question. So when you met with police, whatever the date was, it was a few days later, you met with police. You had a fourth time, you were still in the presence of Jennifer McCabe when you met with police.
Yes.
And handed your phone over, is that right?
Yes.
And she handed her phone over, is that right?
Yes.
And the two of you were together when you signed your consent forms, is that right?
Yes.
The fifth time you told your story was in front of a grand jury, is that right?
I don't know.
Do you remember testifying in front of a grand jury?
I do.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Before you testified at that grand jury, just physically, you were brought into an anteroom where you waited to be called by ADA Adam Lally, correct?
Yes.
Who was in that anteroom with you just before you gave your testimony?
My husband and Jen and Matt McCabe.
So Jennifer McCabe was with you yet again just before you gave
Yep.
official testimony under oath concerning this case and concerning the incident.
Correct.
Ms. Roberts, when was the last time you've spoken to Jennifer McCabe before you testified in this trial?
In this morning.
Did you discuss your testimony?
No.
So you and Ms. McCabe, who became friends
Correct.
because of this incident,
Correct.
talked as recently as this morning before your testimony.
Correct.
And your testimony now is that you did not discuss anything about what you're doing here
No.
or what you're going
I
to
did
testify
not. She
to.
called to wish me good luck today.
When did you talk to her the last time before this morning?
I don't know, maybe a couple of days ago? I don't remember.
Within days of you taking the stand yesterday, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever... May I have just one more?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts, I'm going to ask you, to take a look at, actually, let me ask it a different way. Did you say that you did or did not recall texting with Jen McCabe during the course of that January 29th interview with state police? Do you recall that or no?
No.
Okay.
During the interview, I didn't text anybody.
Okay. Are you saying you didn't text anybody, or you don't recall? Whether
I don't
you...
recall. I don't think I had I wouldn't be texting somebody if I was being interviewed by the state police.
Right. Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of text messages?
Sure.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Thank you. So, may I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look. There's two tabs. Take a look at the tabs and the data across the two tabs, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm in a rush. So, may I?
Yes.
Take this back? Well, with court permission, Mr. Brennan,
Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like. And I forgot to tell you, anytime we're at sidebar, please feel free to stand up and stretch, okay?
That was quicker than we thought, Judge. May
Okay.
I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Did you take a look at this document?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that there were two text messages at around the time of your interview with those two troopers?
No.
Do you recall, as you sit here, texting Ms. McCabe that the state troopers were arriving or they're just getting there?
No.
Do you recall Ms. McCabe texting you anything back about calling me after?
No.
Okay. Did you, in fact, different question, did you, in fact, call Ms. McCabe right after the interview and talk to her?
I don't know.
Have you ever testified that at the scene, Miss Reed was seated in the back of a patrol car along with Jennifer McCabe, and you were standing just outside the car, and there was an interaction among the three of you?
Yes.
Have you ever testified, or have you ever stated in any particular, that during that interaction, Karen asked the three of you to pray?
Yes.
Have you ever said or testified that during that interaction where you're seated, where they are seated in the back of the patrol car and Ms. Reed asked you to pray, that Ms. Reed said to Jennifer McCabe, Google hypothermia?
No.
You've never said that?
I've never said that.
You testified at the grand jury on April 26th. Is that right? April 26th, 2022?
I do not know.
Right? Does that sound right? April 26th, 2022?
I have no idea.
Late April 2022, does that sound right?
I don't know. It was 2022.
You testified under oath, correct?
Yes?
Swore the same oath that you swore here.
Yes?
After the defendant came over to you and spoke and then left, do you remember hearing her make further statements?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember her making further statements similar
I do.
to the statement to you?
Yes, sir.
Could you share with the jury what you remember her saying, not to you, but after she left you?
I remember hearing I hit him several other times. Again, not directed to me, just kind of off in the background. I'd like to reiterate, we were really focused on the patient at that point. We were trying to provide care.
Thank you, sir.
So now, after Mr. Brennan asks you a few questions, now you remember her saying, I hit him a bunch more times. Correct?
I remember hearing it in the background several other times.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Never mentioned that on direct examination, did you?
I don't remember being asked about it, sir. I remember saying what was asked to me.
You were asked, did you ever hear the defendant, Ms. Reed, say anything about I hit him? And your answer was, she said to me, in answer to my question, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him 3 times, and that's it.
To me.
You didn't clarify that, oh my gosh, she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, screaming I hit him to everybody else under the sun.
It was, again, it was behind me in the background
Right.
as I was providing patient care. Again, that was not my focus.
Okay, so you didn't really hear her say anything in the background, because you weren't focused on that, right?
I remember hearing a generalized commotion in the background, but again, that was not our focus.
So generalized commotion is very different than hearing her say, I hit him to other people. Correct? You'd agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So what you actually heard was the chaos and the commotion of a chaotic scene, correct? In the background.
In the background.
As you focused on your patient care, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, not specific words coming out of my client's mouth, correct?
To the question that I posed, do you know him?
You're right. We're off that question.
Okay.
That question, I got it.
Yes, sir.
Triple I hitters.
Correct.
But with regard to what Mr. Brennan just asked you, the generalized commotion, to use your phrase, in the background, you didn't hear any specific words coming out of my client's mouth, did you?
I heard I hit him. But again, it was in the background and it was not my focus.
Well, why didn't you say that on direct? That's kind of an important point. That's why you're here.
Again, if it was neglected on my part, it was not intentional.
Not intentional to neglect that part for the jurors on direct examination.
No, sir.
Certainly not intentional to neglect that part of your testimony on cross-examination.
No, sir.
But you decided to bring it up on on re-cross-examination when Mr. Brennan is asking you questions again, correct?
It was asked of me. Yes,
And
sir.
it was after, of course, that your new statement that you've never testified to before, ever, is this generalized commotion included a bunch of I hit hims in the background, correct?
Sir.
And that comes after you saw the video that clearly shows that when you describe having heard this statement, my client was nowhere around you, correct?
That segment of the video that you showed me,
Yes.
that was not the time frame in which she said that to me.
Well, that was the time frame when Flamati was giving CPR, correct?
He was doing CPR down prior to that as well.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Well, you just testified that you saw him standing up in a big yellow jacket and then kneel down and start giving CPR. We just watched that video. Correct?
But again, the clip of the video that you showed me,
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
that was not the segment in which he said that to me.
Well, that's what you're saying now, but what I'm asking is, you described a very distinctive scene, a very, very specific scene.
Yes, sir. I remember it vividly.
She said, the I hit him phrase, when Flamani was down giving CPR, and you were kneeling down giving airway support, and he was doing rhythmic CPR chest compressions.
Yes, sir. That's what happened.
And then I showed you that very scene, didn't I?
Yes, you showed me that clip prior to that.
I showed you the very scene that you described where Flamani gets down and starts chest compressions and never stops until the gurney is taken off the frame of the camera to the end. Isn't that what I showed you?
That is.
Sure. I don't know if I can do it again. I showed you the scene where firefighter Flamani gets down on his knees, begins chest compressions, and never stops until that gurney is taken off camera, off frame, into the ambulance. That's the clip I showed you, correct?
That is the clip you showed me.
And that's exactly when you described your vivid memory from 3.5 years ago. That's exactly the scene that you described when my client supposedly said, I hit him to you, correct?
Again, the clip that you showed me, that was not when it was said. That segment that you showed, that was not when it was said. It was said prior to that, when the three of us were together.
So Flamani was not giving chest compressions then?
He was. The CPR was a continuous effort throughout the resuscitation.
But we saw him start it. Officer, Firefighter Nuttall, we saw him start it. We saw him walk into the frame, kneel down, and begin the chest compressions, didn't we?
We did.
And at no point, at that time or after, did my client even approach you, did she, in that clip?
She did.
What?
Objection.
Just a question.
Sure,
Mr. Johnson.
sure. Do you need to see that clip again?
Yes, please.
We're not going to show the video again. We've seen 2 videos. Which one is marked?
The
The
Commonwealth.
one with the timestamp in
Right.
the top?
It's the exact same video. One has a timestamp, one doesn't. Just to be clear, you described a very detailed scene in which firefighter Flamati got down on the ground, on his knees, and began CPR.
Yes, sir.
We saw a clip that it played fully through.
Mm-hmm.
Starts and stops, but it played fully through, correct? You
Yes, sir.
agree with that? That was true and accurate video of what happened that day,
Yes, sir.
that morning, correct?
Correct.
And from the time firefighter Flamati began his CPR, he never stopped, but all the way through until the gurney was taken off the camera, correct?
Correct.
You also described very clearly, before you saw the video, that the time when my client walked over and you had this dialogue and you heard this statement, it was during the time that firefighter Flamati is given the CPR, correct? You described it.
Yes, sir.
But when we actually see firefighter Flamati giving the CPR, as per your description, at no time did my client walk over and have a conversation with you, did she? In that video?
She did in the video.
In the portion that Mr. Brennan played you, was firefighter Flamati giving CPR at that point?
As I said previously
Was
as well.
he or was he not? Yes or no?
Objection.
I'm going to let the witness answer the question.
Firefighters Kelly and Flamati were trading off CPR. Tony started doing CPR, and it was passed off at one point to Firefighter Kelly. Firefighter Kelly at that time was a BLS EMT. Firefighter Flamati was a paramedic. They're going to move towards Firefighter Kelly performing CPR because at that time his skill set was not as advanced as Firefighter Flamati's, as Tony's. But they did switch off. That is a routine cardiac arrest. We switch off compressions.
But the video that Mr. Brennan showed you was earlier in time, a few seconds or a minute or two earlier.
Yes, sir.
You'd agree with that, correct?
I would.
And firefighter Flamati had not begun CPR, had he?
I don't believe so.
That's right. He hadn't. But that's the time that my client walked over your general area, correct?
Correct.
Before CPR was started, correct?
CPR was started immediately, sir.
Can we wrap this up?
I don't know if we can, Judge.
Give you a couple more minutes.
Do you understand the confusion?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right, a couple more questions on this. The video that Mr. Brennan showed you,
Yes, sir.
and you pointed to and said, oh, that's the time when she walked over and said the statement.
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
I do.
Firefighter Flamati was not even kneeling down giving CPR, was he at that point?
No,
The answer is yes or no.
no.
Okay, he was not. Later, as the video continues to run, at some point, we see Firefighter Flamati enter the screen, kneel down in that bright, reflective yellow jacket, and begin CPR, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had previously said that when you heard the statement and she walked over to you, it was when Firefighter Flamati was giving CPR, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at no point, you'll agree with me, we just played the video, at no point after he started giving CPR did my client come anywhere near you. Isn't that what the video showed?
That was the segment that you showed me.
You indicated on redirect, that Mr. O'Keefe did not have any injuries to the left side of his body.
Not that I recall.
Isn't it true that in addition to the egg on the right side of his head, he also had a black eye on the left side?
I remember that the swelling had started to, it's referred to kind of as raccoon eyes. It's a bruising of both eyes.
Do you remember
battle signs.
Do you remember saying, in answer to the question, did it look like, in addition to the egg on the right side of his head in the front, did he also have a black eye on the left side? Your answer is, if memory serves correct, yes.
Yes, sir.
So it's not true that he didn't have any injuries on the left side of his body or face, correct?
That swelling kind of migrates over time to both sides. That is a common occurrence for both eyes to be swollen.
Did he have an injury to the left side of his face?
He did not.
Did he have a black left eye?
Yes, he did.
Would you consider a black eye an injury?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you the question again then. Did he have an injury to the left side of his face?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. One last question. You indicated that it was a chaotic scene outside on that front yard.
Yes, sir.
Fire engines, ambulances, patrol vehicles, engines running, diesel engines, flashing lights, people screaming, people talking over the howling wind, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see the homeowner come out the front door?
Don't recall.
You don't recall, or you didn't?
I have no idea who the homeowner is.
And you never saw anybody come out of the front of the house?
No, sir.
That's all I have.
One issue. Briefly.
I want to see counsel at sidebar.
Trooper DeChico to the group.
According to this document, yes.
Who is depicted in that photograph?
The big story, Mr. David Yannetti, criminal defense attorney.
Do you see that person in court?
Yes, I do.
Where is he seated and what is he wearing?
He's seated right there wearing a blue tie and a dark suit, white shirt.
Thank you. We can bring the lights up, Your Honor.
Okay.
In response to, and going back to the multi-page document FF, in response to Trooper Tachiko's photograph that he sent to the group, you responded to that photograph, did you not?
Yes, this document indicates so, yes.
And you responded by laughing at it, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
Well, that's what it says, or that's what you did?
I don't remember.
Trooper Proctor then, former Trooper Proctor, Michael Proctor, then responded, correct?
That's what it says here, yes.
And he responded to the group, funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
Michael Proctor then responded again. Is that right?
Yes.
He wrote, no nudes so far, correct?
That's what it says, yes.
Michael Proctor responded yet again. Is that right?
That's correct.
And in reference to Mr. Yannetti's photograph, he wrote, I hate that man. I truly hate him. Correct?
That's what it says.
There's a trooper by the name of Moore, M-O-O-R-E, correct?
There is.
And he disliked Trooper Proctor's phrase, his statement, no nudes so far, correct?
That's what it says.
Did that indicate to you that Moore was disappointed that Trooper Proctor, Michael Proctor, had not found naked pictures of Miss Reed as yet?
I don't know what that indicated for Mr. Moore.
And then you responded to the phrase, funny, I'm going through his retarded client's phone, correct?
I acknowledged that text message being sent.
You acknowledged it by liking it, correct? With a thumbs up.
I acknowledged it by responding with a thumbs up emoji.
The fact is, Trooper Proctor told you, his supervisor, in this series of text messages, that he was going through Miss Reed's phone. Is that right?
Correct.
And he also informed you, his supervisor, that he was going through her phone looking for nudes or naked pictures of her on her phone. Correct?
He did not tell me that he was going through naked pictures, for naked pictures through the phone.
He wrote, no nudes so far, right?
That is what is written, yes.
What did you think he was looking for when he wrote that phrase?
I don't know what he was looking for.
What would be a reasonable interpretation of what Michael Proctor was looking for when he wrote, no nudes so far?
I don't know.
Motorcycles, handbags, pair of shoes, or naked pictures of Miss Karen Reed?
His mission was to go through the phone to look for digital evidence that's related to the crime. The fact that he wrote no nude so far, I cannot comment on.
You cannot comment on, or you don't want to comment on?
I don't know what he was looking for in that specific time.
You certainly did nothing. You took no action to stop him from potentially looking for naked pictures of my client, correct?
That's correct.
In fact, last week you testified that in your view, Michael Proctor handled himself in this investigation with integrity. That's what you said, correct?
That's correct.
Do you stand by that testimony?
The investigation was handled with integrity and honor.
Do you stand by your testimony that Michael Proctor conducted himself during the course of this investigation with integrity?
Yes, I do.
He also called her retarded, correct?
That is what's written.
That's what's written? That's a very passive way of saying it, Sergeant. That's what's written, or that's what he wrote?
That's what he wrote.
And that's what you read?
I have no memory of reading that. I acknowledged him going through the phone on my Apple Watch. I have no memory of him writing retarded on a text message.
And you'll agree that that is one of the most vile and insensitive and incendiary terms one could use in modern society. Retarded, correct?
That is correct.
And in fact, through your response to that vile phrase, you encouraged it because you liked it with a thumbs up, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you encourage that statement by Michael Proctor by liking it with a thumbs up?
I don't know if it encouraged him, but so I cannot speak to
But
that.
that's what you did.
I acknowledged the text message being sent.
I want to be clear. These text messages were sent to you by your direct report, by your direct subordinate, correct?
That's correct.
And there was even someone on that text chain who was more senior than you, Lieutenant Fanning, right?
That's correct.
Michael Proctor was both your partner and the lead investigator on this case when he wrote that, correct?
He's a subordinate, and he was the case officer.
This thread, text thread, contains communications between a subordinate, the person you call the case officer. By the way, let me ask you another question. Did you ever, during the course of the investigation in which you were a part, the sustained findings, the internal affairs investigation, did you ever review Colonel Noble's determinations about your subordinate, Michael Proctor?
Objection.
Did you review them?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
Okay.
What would Colonel Noble call Michael Proctor's title in this case? You think he'd call him the case officer or the lead investigator? What is your experience with Massachusetts State Police in that regard?
Objection.
Sustained.
Notwithstanding the fact that a subordinate was on this text chain and a supervisor to you, was Lieutenant Fanning one of your supervisors?
Yes.
Notwithstanding the fact that a subordinate was on this text chain and one of your supervisors was on this text chain, you felt comfortable enough within this group of law enforcement to actually like when the subordinate refers to a suspect as retarded, correct?
I acknowledged the text message with a thumbs up emoji.
Do you believe that? Well, let me ask you another question, a predicate question. You were also comfortable enough with that text chain to receive information that your subordinate was looking for naked pictures on a suspect's phone, a woman, no less. Correct? You took no remedial action against Trooper Proctor for that, correct?
No, I did not, no.
Do you believe, as you sit here, that that was a misuse of power and authority by a Massachusetts State Police officer?
By myself or
No,
somebody else?
by Michael Proctor.
Misuse of what?
Misuse of authority and power. To go through a suspect's phone, to get her phone using the authority and the power vested in that officer by the community members. That's the power that you derive, correct? You work for the public. Would you agree?
Sustained.
Do you believe it was a misuse of his authority and power to use Massachusetts State Police Authority to go through her phone and look for naked pictures of her?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe it was a misuse of authority or power to go through her phone and potentially look for nudes?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let me ask it differently. Did you think his text was appropriate?
I don't remember reading that text.
As you sit here now, do you think that text is appropriate?
No, it is not.
Do you think it's professional?
No, it is not.
Do you think it shows integrity?
That text message does not show integrity.
Do you think it shows honor? A word I expect you hold dear.
That text message does not show honor.
On October 15th, 2022, you completed a performance review of Michael Proctor, correct?
That's correct.
Specifically, you were asked to rank his, quote, oral and written communication skills, end quote, correct?
Correct.
That's part of an overall evaluation and performance review, is that right?
Yes, overall 90-day quarterly annual review.
You were specifically asked to rank whether he effectively would whether members, your subordinates, would effectively communicate with others, both within and outside the department, in oral and written form, correct?
That's correct.
And you rated him as exceptional, a number 4 rating out of 5, correct?
That's correct.
You actually went on to write and comment on Michael Proctor, and you wrote, quote, Trooper Michael Proctor displays professional demeanor, composure, dignity, and respect during the performance of his duties, and especially during his interactions with the public. This is seen during interviews with witnesses, suspects, as well as victims and their families, end quote. That was a statement you wrote about Michael Proctor, correct?
That is correct.
And this is after the text chain that we've just been talking about, where he calls Miss Reed retarded and references looking for nude photographs of her, correct?
That is correct.
Was your statement in that evaluation true or false?
It was true.
You knew Michael Proctor's proclivities, obviously. He told them to you, correct?
The term proclivities, what does that
You
mean?
knew what he tended to do, what he wanted to do through his own comments, to look for nudes on a woman's phone, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were aware, sir, that he had received evidence in a case, evidence that doesn't belong to him, belongs to the Massachusetts State Police, at least at that point, correct? The cell phone.
I was aware that he received a cell phone, yes.
And he used that power and the authority to go through that cell phone and look for nudes of my client, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
During the same course of your evaluation, you were also asked to evaluate his investigative ability, correct?
That's correct.
You rated him the highest standard in the Massachusetts State Police, outstanding, a 5, correct?
That's correct.
And you went on to write about Michael Proctor in the commentary below that rating to justify it. Is that right?
That is accurate, yes.
You wrote, quote, Trooper Proctor has had a high-profile caseload with a lot of eye and pressure from external sources during the first day of the investigation. He handled himself and all the case with utmost professionalism and competence. He is able to investigate his case thoroughly and with strict integrity, end quote. Correct?
Which quarterly review was this?
This is the same one, October 2022. Is that right? Those are your comments.
That sounds very accurate. I just was not sure which quarterly review that was for.
Professionalism.
Yes.
You believe that he acted in accordance with the highest standards of professionalism?
During his 90-day performance, yes.
And you didn't just say he displayed professionalism, you said utmost professionalism, correct?
Yes.
Competence? Do you
Yeah.
believe he displayed competence?
Yes.
And not just in integrity, but he conducted himself, as you put it, with strict integrity. Is that right?
That is correct.
Did it show integrity in your view when your subordinate Michael Proctor called Miss Reed retarded?
Objection.
I'll allow that one.
I believe that as a U.S. citizen, he has the right to comment. That's his First Amendment right. We uphold the Constitution, and it's unfortunate, unprofessional what he said in a private text message communication. He might have been voicing his frustrations. I cannot speak for Michael Proctor. It is unprofessional and unfortunate that he said that.
This was not, Sergeant Buchanan, a private text message conversation. This was with his boss and 4 or 5 other individuals, one of whom was your boss. Correct?
Correct.
This was a communication intended for and received by members of his unit in furtherance of his investigative authority. Correct?
It was amongst members of the unit.
He was updating his boss about what he was doing in furtherance of the investigation, going through her phone. Correct?
No, I would disagree with you on that. This was a group chain, text message chain that we were discussing private matters in our personal lives.
Private matters, including going through Miss Reed's phone?
That is unfortunate he shared that on that group text.
So in other words, to the public, he holds one face in private conversations with you and your colleagues within the unit. He shows a completely different face, private face, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You said that you believe that he has a constitutional right, a First Amendment right, to call Miss Reed a suspect in his official investigation, in his official capacity as a Massachusetts state trooper, to call her retarded? That's your justification?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you justify his statement, that vile statement?
I do not know.
Do you think it's appropriate, given the fact that he has a First Amendment right to say whatever he wants?
No, I do not.
Do you think there actually might be members of the community, parents, siblings,
Objection.
children?
Mr. Jackson, I'm going to exclude that question as argumentative. Move on.
You wrote in your report, if I may have a moment, Your Honor, you wrote in your report about his conduct. He shows composure, dignity, and respect during the performance of his duties, and especially during his interactions with the public. He has a duty to the public, to the community that he serves, correct?
Yes, he does.
Just like you have a duty to the public and the community that you serve. Is that right?
That is correct.
Do you think community members might take offense to the use of the
Objection.
word retarded?
Sustained. It's argumentative again, Mr. Jackson. Please don't do that.
He didn't just put it, that derogatory comment, he didn't just put it, or he didn't just say it, correct? You talked about the First Amendment.
Objection.
Sustained.
I'm not finished with my question, if I could.
All right, so just ask a question.
Sure.
No comments first, okay?
My question is, did he just say the word? Or did he go further than just saying it?
Objection.
Okay, we've gone through this. Move on, please.
The fact is, Sergeant, you put it in writing and you liked it, correct?
I acknowledge the text message. I never saw the vile term.
Your Honor, may we approach it just very briefly for a scheduling issue?
Okay, jurors, feel